Okay, greetings followers. Lots happened last couple days. I sold all of the tires for $150 and the front suspension, everything on it for $150. So long story short, the Blazer is basically just the gas to go get it now. I've already paid for it just selling these items. So trying to go as cheap as I can go to get the King of the Hammers is working fairly well right now. So what we'll do is we'll start on the suspension and put a time lapse on this and rip out all the suspension today. Okay, so it is all ripped out. Whew, kind of out of breath. Seems like when I do these videos, I'm always out of breath. All right, the one to the left is the 3/4 ton A-arm lower. The one on the right's the Blazer. As you can tell, they're basically the same size. This one sticks down. The 3/4 ton sticks down about, I'd probably say, I don't know, looks like it's a couple inches more. Maybe an inch. Not too much. And then these are the knuckles. That is huge. That's your 3/4 ton. That's the 6-inch lift. The stock one will be 6 inches shorter. This is pretty beefy. I don't know if I can get that machined to accept a uniball. You know, 2 holes. Machine this down, cut it off, machine that groove out, make it flat, and make a bolt go through there for a uniball, or just do a stock. Depending how big the stock is. I mean, if this is pretty beefy, then I'll see what I can do to machine that down and make it work. And anyways, that's pretty big. And then this is the S10. You can see the axle diameter size is probably almost twice as big, a lot bigger, which is nice. Ooh, a dual piston brakes versus a single. So that'll be a lot better for braking. The brake caliper is just gigantic compared to the S10. You can see that there. So this IFS might work. We'll see what it can do, hopefully. So I'm not wasting a bunch of time. And these parts here, that's what I have sold. The axles, uppers, lowers, shocks, CVs. And anyways, I'll give him a call and get that sent off. So I had to do this pretty quick. Hope the wind isn't bad. If it is, I'll have to change my mic or re-record over it. But I am cutting away. Borrowed a plasma cutter from a friend of mine. And this is where I've come up with. Taking it out piece by piece. There's a block here. I really don't know if that's stock. I kind of doubt it, in between the CV and differential. But what I'm going to try to do now is take this piece here and get good dimensions, where the point where the axle should be, the bottom of the A-arm, or I can use the stock location. Stock location to here, like I said before, is about 12 inches. I may use those stock locations, but I think I'm going to use the FabTech bottom cross member there. I think that'll be much stronger. And I do like this about, I think that's a FabTech right there design. I'll probably put the bump stop here on the A-arm. So something good to know. You can look at the differential, see how it's angled up for the transfer case, and hopefully that angle will all work with mine. I think it will. There's a cross member here that I like where that A-arm is. That's why, one reason why I want to keep that. And I may keep these cross supports here on this FabTech design. As you can tell, the differential is all bolted inside the FabTech lift. And man, if someone would just manufacture this just to go up inside an existing S10 platform and just bolt everything in, that would be nice. Of course, it has to be cut down about 7 inches. So I have 7 inches here so that I can cut down to so it'll fit inside, and then my A-arms will be longer. And then I may have to do, it's called a reel lift. I have a key that's in here that lifts up, and then the torsion bar will be right there up inside the frame. Okay, let me see here. So you can see this string right here. Here's the bolt, or a washer or something I have. That is my wheelbase. And there's another one down there that helps mark my wheelbase.
Dad?
Yes, Jordan?
I just washers.
Yeah, what are you doing? Finding electricity?
Yeah.
Oh, good job, buddy. Okay, let me see if I can get the camera set up to show you wheelbase. This is the cross member that's stock that has to stay according to the rules. And here's the A-arm. When it fits, and all it is just on the front of it, it pretty much lands right where the string is. I mean, in essence, I could move it forward another ½ inch, but that is right on, right there. See it touching that control arm? So that's what I'm going to use for my measurements of putting this all together. Is this going to be right on the face of that cross member? So kind of excited about that. And the A-arm actually might have to go about here, because this angle crosses and hits the bottom of this, which is totally fine because the IFS differential is bigger than the S10, and so moving it down, and then we have some room. I'll cut off these IFS mounts, which are not the cross member, they're just mounts, and I'll have some more room to put the 3/4 ton IFS differential and move it forward, and then it'll also drop down a little bit, so it'll have clearance up top when I lower this. So it's actually looking like it's going to fit together real nicely. Okay, I have it all cut up like I needed. I take a ton of these measurements and figure out what to do. The 2 different differentials, 3/4 ton, S10. Alright, it looks about 5 inches shorter, I guess you could say. So we'll do a whole bunch of measurements and try to think it through and figure out what to do. I was thinking, or I had the idea, that I just keep the 3/4 ton length on the diff, and then these spacers, I just would not put these spacers on, and that would, you know, give me, you know, at least 1.5 inches, I guess. That it is shorter. I thought it was 7 inches, but measuring here, it's actually smaller than that. But not cutting this and doing all that would probably be a lot cheaper. This is some interesting measurements, which makes it feel promising. Okay, so on the frame itself, outside to outside's 31, and then on this differential, outside to outside, is roughly 27. So it's 4 inches shorter than the frame rail, which I could probably, you know, 2 inches on each side is where this would be. It'd be right in the frame. And judging by, here I'll post a couple of pictures. When This 3/4 ton diff is sitting in between the frame on the 3/4 ton. The output shafts, including the shims there, is about the same place. So I actually believe that this 3/4 ton will fit good, as in I wouldn't have to shorten it. And as I'm thinking now with cost, I don't think I will shorten it. All right, well, let's put it on time lapse and get rid of the rear suspension. This kind of gives you an idea of how that tire profile is going to look. Let me turn it around here. Hopefully the sun looks better this way. But it kind of gives an idea of what the tire profile will be. But obviously it's going to be a lot higher, or maybe 4 inches higher of wheel well. You'll probably see in the end. But let's rip this out and put a time lapse, and then put this rear axle up for sale. Okay, so today I got the other side all cleaned up, and I think I'm gonna start doing my best to mock up a front suspension. So some measurements that I was able to get that I want you to be aware of is from that eye hole down to the bottom. That is roughly 10 inches. And on this side is different, as in center to center is about 7.5 inches. So let's look at that again. Yeah, roughly about 10.5. So 10.5 and 7.5. So there's 2-inch difference. Well, that's interesting because over here, I missed garbage last week. Sorry, that'll be gone in 2 days. Okay, so here we have 17 inches from here to here and 15 inches from here to here. So how they set up these IFS on the Chevys are 2-inch difference. And it is offset a little bit, which is nice because that cross member will go about here on that that's existing, and this will curve up a little bit more up into the wheel well, which is where we need it. And they do have the same geometry, as in the center of this A-arm to that bolt is about the same as the Chevy as well. Okay, sorry about the mess. I have been so busy with a lot of stuff, and I haven't actually videoed for quite a while. So now I need to do quite the update. So I did put the upper arm here based on the string, but I just tacked it though. I didn't weld it in. I might have to rip that out. There's an oil fill lines here, that nice shiny silver one. I started my truck the other day after I pulled the diff out, and oil squirted everywhere, so I had to buy a new one. Apparently those seals go out, and I guess I bumped it and it just decided to go all dry. So I was hemming and hawing on so much ideas on how to do this IFS, and I think I finally found out what I'm doing. There's all the pieces. I'm grounded, all those metal spurs off, and I think I'm ready to go. So here is the plan. All right, this is what we have here. The IFS 3/4 ton FabTech frame. I cut it 2.5 inches back on each side. So actually about 2.25. So roughly it is going to be 5, almost 5, I guess 4.5, almost 5 inches that I shrunk it in. Okay, I'm keeping the same length of the IFS 9.25 GM diff. See these holes here? This is where I was going to put the A-arms, as close as in as I can. In other words, that's next to stock, what it is originally. But I found out that it didn't work, and so I had to re-drill, which is totally fine. And that is because right here you have the mount that holds your diff into place. There's a bolt in there. And if I would have kept this, see that little white dot? That's where it would have had to have been. So everything was just too close because I'm trying to tuck everything up so high. And I figure it down a little bit, it's totally fine. So, but that's it, guys. I mean, heck, if you guys want to build an S10, I think this is the platform you use. You get this cradle from any one of these heavy-duty 3/4 ton trucks, which is very common, and at least here in Idaho, and especially when one blows an engine and it's just not worth it, or they roll the truck, which that's what happened here. So if I was you, if you're planning on it, then look for this setup. Trim it down on the edges, new bolts, holes, put it back up. So this is the original mount of FabTech to the frame. I'm most likely going to be cutting them and moving in maybe 2 inches. This one will definitely be cut and moved in. This back one may stay. I haven't decided too much. Most likely it's going to go in, but I haven't decided that much. So this is the mount, if you kind of get an idea of where I'm going with this. Oop, hold on, let me. Okay, so this mount right here is going to be welded to my frame, and then I'll use these bolts and bolt it in place, much like the original. So if there ever is an IFS issue, I just unbolt 4 bolts and drop it, and it's going to be so easy to maintain, which I'm pretty excited. Okay, the little bump stop right there you see at the bottom of the A-arm, that will be where my speed bump will be. I will use all that brackets, and so I think that's going to work out. One huge announcement, and I'm going to be announcing it with every video, is the owner of Real Lift. I've told you about it, with a key that goes in here and it extends up, and then the torsion bar will be right here. It'll be up in the frame. He will sponsor me. So I got one sponsor. I'm looking for another sponsor for that we're working through. We'll see what happens. Okay, I did cut this down here. This is the oil pan. I just want to give enough space. Doing that will make about 3/4 of an inch gap around the oil pan to an inch. I can't remember where I put it at, but that will help with the distance. Oh, and then you can see this other side. I just did a little mock-up right there with the bump stop. Okay. And, so this Real Lift I was telling you about, this is the FabTech spacer. So when that's in place with the CV axle, it'll be about 70 or 72 wheel mount to wheel mount, which would be absolutely perfect. This Real Lift guy said that he has these CVs that are, you can do without that spacer. So I think I'm going to go through him with a lot of stuff. But this guy, he's from Arizona. This is going to be pretty awesome. So pretty good setup. All right, next. I picked up this bad boy from the local Holst Trucking. They're not sponsoring me, but with that said, they hooked me up so much, I'd like to give them a shout out. They do like semis and such. Oh look, there's some studs I gotta replace. But this is a 14 bolt disc brake factory ribbed unit. See, there's the ribs. And I sold my roofing nailer gun and hose, and I bought this. So I got this for $260. And it was out of their coal pile or return pile, core charge pile. There you go. So if you are looking for an axle in the future, I highly suggest asking for the core charge pile and go through those axles, because you can actually pick up something really inexpensive. And because of those bolts are broken, it could have been from a wrecked truck. I don't know. That, or they wanted a different gear, and oftentimes mechanics will not re-gear it. They'll just buy a whole new axle and throw it in because they don't want to worry about gearing an axle. So gearing an axle is actually a very good skill, and a lot of people try to go around it. Actually, I do have a Dana 35 axle right there. This is my axle wall, and a JK Dana 44. If anyone wants it, it's for sale. Anyways, I have a mechanic friend of mine that he was asking about that axle, and he didn't want to do the gears. And I'm like, dude, I'll help you with the gears. Okay, so next, this is another good deal that I got. This is a 3/4 ton 4-leaf spring, and it was quite a bugger getting these whatever gussets out, rubber gussets, because polyurethane, because it was so welded shut. I couldn't even get that bolt out, so I had to chop them off. I'll show you the piece. One of them, this is one of them. Like I put the press straight through it trying to get it out. That was a pain, and all the metal and everything came out of it. And this is the other one right here. I dang near destroyed it, but the whole insides came out. I mean, that's disgusting. I'm gonna have to rebuild that one. Sorry if you can't see that too well. So, which is good, which is fine. And then next, these are these clamps here that I'm going to extend up, make them, I don't know, about that big or so, to help out with the articulation. I'm wondering about